In our series of pre-election segments, we turn to the race for City Council in District 7, the seats being vacated by acting Mayor Kim Janey, and the district covers Roxbury along with parts of the Fenway and the South End. We'd like to welcome one of the candidates with experience as an entrepreneur, mental health worker, and former director of a Main Street program, Tania Anderson. Thank you very much for being with us, Tania.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Tania, when we have candidates come on, we ask about backgrounds. We often hear about mothers and fathers, but with your background, you have an uncle who I think was very important. Can you tell us why?
Yes, my uncle Luis is everything to me, so to speak. He was the patriarch, or sort of rose to the occasion to raise myself and my siblings and his 6 siblings. What's interesting, or I think fascinating about him, he was a brilliant young man, just at the age of 15, I think, who just took it upon himself to provide for us, and was actually closeted, a man who I think in the context of time and I think oppressive societies in Cape Verde, West Africa, could not come out as a gay man. And I think suppressing himself to live in Cape Verde, to raise his siblings and his niece and nephews, I think it's absolutely altruistic and just amazing. And then later was killed by a drunk driver, so short-lived at just by 50. So I always reference to say that my legacy, or however my life has been shaped, or how I live, is basically to live out his legacy.
Well, he was a patriarch of an extended family. You are the matriarch of an extended family. Isn't that true?
Well, that's quite kind of you. Actually, yes, I am. I will take that on. Thank you so much. I will accept that. Thank you.
I want to ask you about the other things you have done, though. Of course, you've gone from being a mental health worker to an entrepreneur, head of a Main Street program. I know maybe you left it a bit farther behind, but as a mental health worker, you were really reaching out to people who were, I guess we would say, are desperately underserved. What did you learn from that?
Oh my goodness. I think that, people are people, the interconnectivity that we share in any community between, cross cultures and communities, or segregated communities, especially in District 7. I learned that we're all the same, Chris. I think that we, our, brothers, white brothers and Black brothers and sisters are all of one of the same. And we experience our experience, and the journeys take a different shape and color, and sometimes more intense than others. But in those desperate situations, in those humble conditions, that where people are surviving, where people are just trying to adapt and do better, we all are looking for either love, or to be accepted, or to have value and contribute to our community or our immediate families. That I think offers a wonderful opportunity for our community to be able to do some really good work and evolve.
Speaking of opportunities, you later became an entrepreneur, and after that, head of a Main Streets program in Dorchester. What did you learn from that about spreading out opportunity to people?
I learned that, Boston is systemically racist, unfortunately. And within those opportunities, or within seeking different economic integrative opportunities within District 7 or Dorchester, that there were a lot of obstacles, a lot of zoning hurdles and red tapes and bureaucracy that our city, I think, could do better at streamlining, or perhaps developing an incubator that streamlines a mechanism, that is more transparent, that is more clear, and the communication builds more trust and relationships with community. And it really gave me a larger scope on what the need was for the marginalized that suffer inequities in our communities. And I took a huge interest in urban planning and policies, and I hope to be able to adopt some that are very equitable for our community.
Well, one glaring example of the racial inequity is in city spending on contracts And you'd like to do something about that. I know the mayor's office has a plan that they inherited from Marty Walsh that they're sort of taking to another level. You want to go even further. What would you like to see?
I would love to, again, make it equitable. I'm not sure that 50% of the contracts to minorities is the way to go. I think that making it equitable means that we're critically and intentionally looking at strategies or approaches that are really making it equitable, means that we are making it accessible, means that we are making it user-friendly, means that we are sort of dispelling that process of accessing resources. So it's not just providing an opportunity or resources, but it's equipping our communities with the tools that they would be able to navigate those resources and properly use them. And then furthermore, make our job descriptions as public servants more clear to folks, so that they are measuring or monitoring measurable goals and understanding true accountability, and how to navigate local government a little bit better.
I want to turn to public safety because, as you know, there are concerns about that even among businesses in the Bowdoin, Geneva area. But at the same time, you want to see money spent differently. Take some of the money used in the police department and put it into other areas. What do you have in mind?
I would say that the police, I think most people want to do well. And we are in Boston, I think we have an opportunity to take some of those resources and create jobs for youth, create more after school structure, homework support. We actually don't have teenage homework help in the city of Boston. We actually don't have after school programs that are more structured, that actually keeps teenagers interested. And I think that police officers have a role to play in mentorship programs, where if detail positions, maybe, again, just an idea, I don't have all the answers, could actually look like where police officers in their detail time would be mentoring youth, while youth are getting paid, so that they can continue to create financial literacy, or that they have some funds to maybe support themselves and their families. But also, meanwhile, you're creating relationships, sort of the big brother role, and hopefully developing more trust with the police department and youth.
I want to appeal to your public health background, because right now we still have a racial gap in the percentage of people getting vaccinated for COVID-19. What do you think should be done that's not being done already?
I think that Massachusetts overall, I have some opinions about things that could have been done, or practices that were already in place to be done more efficiently. But I think that so far, Boston is doing a really good job in reaching out to the communities, especially those who are affected most. But I would go a step further into implementing it into our schools, and begin to integrating it too with our social workers that are in the homes. So providing a package of sort of preventative measures in the event that other types of pandemics or issues come up, or viruses, that we are always mindful about preparing financially, preparing with our healthcare, making sure that we are addressing the issues beforehand, as opposed to after the fact.
What about the schools, especially reaching the students in need? We just saw a report in the Globe about the gap in engagement for English language learners. What do you think needs to be done to improve that?
I think that a lot of the times the students that are coming from out of the country, from other countries, are not necessarily on the level that is being checked in on the registration forms. So they may say, well, we have a fourth grader at this level. I think the first thing needs to be done is an academic assessment in their language. In my experience working with Closing the Achievement Gap with connecting home to school, school to home, I learned that we're saying, or they are saying that they are a fourth grader, but they're actually maybe at times even illiterate. And we need to be able to assess that issue before we can even address learning English. So it's a deeper issue. And I think the bottom line to any student, your foundation at home, right? Your holistic supports. So communal, familial, or just making sure that children have proper housing, proper food, proper space, homework space, lighting, ventilation, overall in the home as well, is very important. So coupling that with social workers in the schools, making sure that there is a family partner to provide sort of the wraparound services to ensure the foundation that I just mentioned, I think would be complementary to a holistic approach. And once we are more secure in our foundation, I think our children would perform better. But that's just sort of extending it beyond the English language learner issue.
I know one question that all the candidates seem to be getting asked in this district. What about mass and CAS? What would you like to see done there?
Absolutely. Chris, I think we have best practices. I think that we can learn a lot from what happened in Lisbon, Portugal. I think in 2000, they curbed their addiction issue by 60%, by just decentralizing services, creating housing with wraparound services and treatment, and counseling and familial, again, holistic, spiritual types of supportive programs. I think we can do it. I'm in support of safe consumption sites. I have participated in the Needle Exchange. I was an HIV counselor at DEMIC, and I worked with sex industry workers and addiction. And I think that making sure that the services are always complemented, are always partnered with communal support, so nonprofits and activists as well, because that provides sort of like that safe environment where everyone is encouraging that we are supportive of the same goal is also important. And also destigmatizing mental health and destigmatizing substance misuse, and making sure that we have a different approach to it so that they're not discriminated as well is very important.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you so very much.
That was Tania Anderson, candidate for Boston City Council in District 7. We'll have more news in just a moment.